listening to the Jersey Guys Podcast, the show that talks about hard rock, heavy metal, AOR, and West Coast music. In-depth conversation and special guests are always on tap, so settle in and turn it up. Now, here are your hosts, Tom and Mark.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Jersey Guys Podcast. This is Mark Ballo, and I'm here as always with my co-host Tom Coyne. We're bringing you episode number 3 today, and this was a really good one. We had special guest from a legendary 70s band, hard rock band, Levesque Diamond. We've got the original guitar player, Roger Romeo. So this was a real good interview. We basically covered the whole history of the band, right from their 1977 debut album, all the way up through today. The band is got a new singer in 2018 and are working on some new material. So hopefully in the not too distant future, we'll get some new music from Levesque Diamond. But until then, let's get right into the interview, and we hope you guys enjoy this one. Hey everybody, this is Mark from the Jersey Guys Podcast. Welcome, and we're going to get into our new interview right now with Roger Romeo from the band Levesque Diamond.
Well, this is something that actually the first band that I wanted to do in terms of an interview. I was very happy that Roger was accepting to do it, and the honor is, believe me, all mine. So looking forward to this, and let's take it away.
Welcome, Roger. How you doing?
Great, man. How are you? Thanks for chiming me in.
Awesome. Thank you very much for agreeing to do this. It's a real thrill for both of us, that's for sure.
Wow. Great. Appreciate it.
So I wanted to basically start out. I figured we could, we're going to cover like the history of the band, from the time that you were in the band and everything like that. But I wanted to basically start. I was doing a little reading up and on the band, and I wanted to ask you, in the early days when you guys first started, I had read that you guys opened up 3 shows for Kiss in 1976. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah. So this is a band that really worked. And when we weren't, playing, we literally had our own rehearsal room, and we rehearsed 6 nights a week. And so when we rehearsed the show. So it's like after almost a year of that, we were pretty much ready. And oddly enough, the only place we played was a backyard party. And we went from that to opening for Kiss. So it was quite but we, like I said, we were very professional. So we literally had the whole set down and, what we were doing in the set. And so we actually rehearsed the show, not just the songs.
Okay. Now I read something that was Gene Simmons kind of instrumental in coming to check you guys out, or have anything to do with getting you guys a contract or anything like that?
Oh, close. Michael Diamond was great at crashing gates. So one time we went to the Forum to see Kiss, and Michael actually crashed us in, and we crashed their party, and their back after the show's party. And so we met Gene and Paul, and just struck up a really good, a really good conversation. And Gene ended up coming out to our rehearsals in Los Angeles. And that's how we got on the first shows. He actually wanted to manage us. And unfortunately, we already got management that we were sorry that we did. That's another story. And also, Gene wanted us to go with his booking agency, ATI, out of New York. But our management and their infinite wisdom, we went with an outfit in Detroit. But we got a lot of Ted Nugent dates out of. That's when Ted Nugent was really big.
Oh, okay. Very interesting. Now, I read something about that Kiss wanted to actually record the song Satin Peacock from your debut album?
Yeah, that was another mistake we made. we should have let them do it. I mean, it didn't preclude us from doing it on our album, so I'm not quite sure what the decision was, but Michael and Michael wrote that song, so they made that decision. I have no idea why.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the song, the band was always very songwriter influenced. You know what I mean? We were very active in songwriting and co-writing, and so like the band was really really based on originals. You know, I mean, we weren't interested in doing any covers, although we did cover Teaser on Tommy Bolin, but that was before we had a record deal.
Oh, wow.
So what I wanted to ask you, Michael, is the band was introduced to me originally when I first found out about them, that's on the first record, as the American Deep Purple. Was that a band that you guys delved into, or just...
Nah. Not really.
Okay.
I don't think we sounded like Deep Purple at all. But because I'm from Detroit, and I think I brought a lot of Detroit rock bluesy kind of thing to the band. And I don't think Deep Purple was, I wouldn't consider them a blues rock band. And I think closer, because Rick Sanford could nail anything Robert Plant ever sang. So I think we were probably closer to Led Zeppelin. But, you know, nobody likes to talk about their influences too much because, you know, you like to think of yourself as being some type of original player, you know, an original songwriter.
Well, I always thought it's interesting you said Robert Plant, because in my opinion, Sanford was always a combination of Robert Plant and Bon Scott.
Yeah, but Rick sang like that way before Bon Scott, though.
Right.
I don't hear any Bon Scott, but definitely he was definitely admittedly influenced by Robert Plant. But to be honest with you, Rick Sanford's voice, you know, not to be egotistical, I guess I don't have to be egotistical, but I'm not talking about myself. Rick Sanford had a much better range than Robert Plant, and range of styles too. Rick had once again some bluesy kind of stuff going on. You know what I mean? So, and I just think that Rick was my favorite singer. He was the reason why I joined the band, to be honest with you. You know, they needed a guitar player to do some demos because their guitar player was sick, and I go, okay. And so, you know, so I learned all these things. We did a bunch of demos. That Teaser was one of them. And then they asked me to join the band, and I'm just going, well, I don't know, because I was the lead singer. And I'm just going, you know, but Rick being that good, it gave me all the reason to want to join the band. You know what I mean? So it was like, you know, somebody's that much, I wouldn't say better than me, but, you know what I'm saying? His voice was just so great.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't want to pass up. You know, even today I listen to his vocals, and I'm just going, oh, my God. that guy was great, you know, so.
Which you did have your own basis to be a lead singer, because you were a singer in an Asian disco band.
That was it. Funny guy. Yeah, when I first moved out here in California, there was this thing called Musicians Contact Service, where you would just go there and you pay $15 a month, I think, and people would put wanteds in, and you would put, you know, your availables in there. And the two things I got was Legs Diamond, so I started jamming with them right away. This is like November of '75. And then, but the other thing was an opportunity to sing in this band, but they played all the time. They played all these Asian functions. It's very strange. Yeah, I'm singing Stevie Wonder and Average White Band, and, you know.
Oh, that's great.
I wish some of that would show up on YouTube, but I guess not.
God, I hope it does. Yeah, so, but the funny thing is I was still going through the glam thing from Detroit, you know, the David Bowie and all that kind of stuff. And it was, I don't think I owned a shirt. I think all my shirt in quotations were actually blouses. You know, one way or the other. Not like I look like a girl, but, you know, like Robert Plant. You know, he had those.
Oh, absolutely. That was the look back then.
Yeah. So anyway, so here I am in platform wraparound sandals. So, you know, definitely look like some chick. And my feminine tops, looking like, you know, I should be in David Bowie's band. And I'm in a totally straight-laced, all Asian disco band. And it was just kind of hilarious.
If only we had the video.
Oh God. Oh no. Yeah. So anyway, I was pretty much playing with Legs Diamond within a month of getting here. So it was pretty quickly. Another band I actually auditioned for was the Raspberries.
Oh,
Really?
wow.
This is when Eric Carmen just left the band. But, I jammed with them once, and it was pretty cool. They're all nice guys. But I kind of already made a commitment to Legs Diamond, and I like the material better.
Interesting.
Now, I do have a couple of questions that, as a lifetime fan, I've always wanted to have answered. The first album, the first half of it is, in my opinion, some of the greatest guitar riffs, just classic USA hard rock from the latest 70s. The second part of the album is more progressive. Were you guys, and I know it was like kind of the same era, was there any influences by Kansas or Angel?
Angel? Oh, God, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about Kansas?
All of our influences, I could probably speak for the whole band, they were like, you can't name any acts that were prevalent of that time, because we didn't copy off anybody who was actually actively playing the same time we did.
Okay.
Our influences were a lot earlier.
How did the flute come into play?
Oh, what I wanted to say, you were mentioning the difference between the two albums, and the first album, because I'm a songwriter, and the first album we had this guy Derek Lawrence that did the album, and we got to like 6 or 7 songs. He goes, "That's it." I'm like, what do you mean? That's it? We got a bunch of more songs, and literally, I did not get any songs on the first album. So if you're talking about influences, I would say if I wrote a song, it would probably be a good song for me to play. And the difference between the first album and the second album is, songwriting-wise, I'm all over the second album.
Okay. Well, the second album was a little harder edged, I thought. Would you agree?
I don't like to look at stuff like production value, but I like the production of the second album better than the first. The first was like really primal, so it's very, very dry. Some people like that, you know what I mean? That's cool. But I thought the second album was much better.
Well, that's going to lead me to a question for you from my 21-year-old son, who I recently have turned on to Legs Diamond.
Oh, cool.
And the first song I turned him on to was Stage Fright. And he had a question for me that I had a question over 40 years ago. Why was that odd effect put on Sanford's vocals, where he sounded like he was singing like in another part of a recording studio, which it wasn't on any of the songs on the album?
I'm not quite sure what, I'd have to hear it.
Yeah, it was very, I'm guessing it was done on purpose, but it sounded more faint than
his vocals in general?
On that song, yeah, it was almost like if you listen to it on headphones, it's almost like in one channel on your headphones, where the rest of the album wasn't done that way.
Once again, I do not like the production of that album.
Right.
So,
I kind of found it was lacking in places too compared to the second record.
Yeah, if you wanna hear how it should sound, yeah, I think we re-recorded it, if I'm not mistaken, on the Town Bad Girl
yes,
album.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, and you'll notice. I'll send you a link to that teaser that we did, that teaser Tommy Bolin song. But you'll notice on the second album, Rick sounds a lot better, and it's because I don't think that Derek Lawrence spent any time on Rick's vocal production at all.
No, not on the first record, because the guy that I thought thin. The real home run was the singer, and he was kind of way back in the mix. Yeah,
and really not flattering EQ at all.
Right.
Because Rick, is pretty much a mid-range singer, and if that's all you emphasize, it's going to sound like he's singing out of a megaphone.
That's what it sounded exactly right. That's what some of the tracks, not all of them, but some of them sounded like he was singing out of a megaphone. Right.
We had a major wrestling match with that producer. We did not like him. He was drunk all the time. But he did Deep Purple at one time, so that was a big attraction, his name could help us get attention, but not really. Yeah. So oddly enough, from that first album, we really learned how much we could hate a producer. So we basically we self-produced most of the rest of the stuff. And Eddie Leonetti was our producer on the second album, and he was a producer in the old school terms, helping us with tempos, and this should be a chorus here, that kind of stuff. He was very much into the pre-production, and Derek Lawrence, we never even met him until we went in the studio.
Oh, really? Interesting.
So yeah, so Eddie Leonetti pretty much just let us, if a player sounds good, your whole job is just to make the record sound, his guitar or whatever on that record sound just like it did coming out of that amp.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? You're not inventing anything. All you're doing is trying to, replicate it so it sounds exactly like it would if you were there. That kind of thing.
Right.
So basically, we all had pretty good tone. I was the Les Paul and the Marshall thing, and Mike Prince with his Hammond and all that stuff. Michael Diamond had great bass tone. So it was like, all you had to do is, mic it up, really. You know what I mean? So it's pretty hard to fuck it up unless you can't do it, can't replicate it. So Eddie Leonetti was great, but I have to mention one guy for that second album, Lee DiCarlo. He's the engineer that Eddie Leonetti brought with him from New York, and he ended up staying out here, by the way. And he was just the best engineer ever. And he knew how to get every single sound. And, he knew all the outboard stuff did. He knew everything. You know what I mean? And he ended up being the chief engineer at the record plant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I would say Lee DiCarlo doesn't get a whole lot of credit, but he should for that album, the production, definitely.
I thought the key song on that album was Waiting.
Waiting?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. I wrote that.
See? I did. that was the song that on that album that I've had to pick one favorite. Obviously everything on it was great, but I kind of wanted to segue into the third album, which is a favorite of mine, but with Legs Diamond aficionados, there's a little bit of a difference of opinion as to how that album stacked up to the first two, which are classics of their era. If you could tell us a little bit about how that album was recorded, the song selections, the covers that were on there, and the change of label.
Well, as I mentioned, I don't want to talk about it a whole lot, but we had the reason why that we weren't bigger than we were. Number one reason is we had the shittiest management in the entire universe, and Angel had the same management, Quiet Riot, same management, and they ended up pretty much fucking all three of us.
Mm-hmm.
So what had happened was we were on the road, and Mercury Polygram was giving us. I don't know if I should talk about this, but Mercury Polygram was giving us road, support on the roads for money, to stay on the road because openers, don't get much money, right? Mm-hmm. So they were giving us a certain amount every week, and our management company was literally taking 20% of it.
Oh, wow.
Like it was. So, but road support is not income. You know what I'm saying? So. When Mercury found out about that, they didn't renew us for a third album. Had we known, we would have just dumped the managers.
Right.
And we ended up doing that anyway. So, I don't want to talk about negative stuff.
Yeah, no, I personally like that album a lot. I don't think it's quite on par with the first two, but that's, the first two to me are like monumental classics.
I could say one thing in defense of that album. We were on a label called Cream Records, and they also owned High Records, and they also had their own publishing company. And they wanted us, part of the deal is they wanted us to cover a certain amount of songs, way too many as far as we're concerned. Mm-hmm. And we ended up doing some song called Help Wanted that was actually a hit
Yes.
So and that was literally a Hudson Brothers song. It
That's
was
right.
Like, almost embarrassing. A funny story about that, we were all at the Rainbow with we did a debut of our album, doing dinners and all that kind of stuff. And some guy with the beard comes over our table, this is the third album, and he goes, "Hey, I wrote that song." We go, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm like Mark Hudson." I go, "Oh, how cool, man." He goes, "Yeah, thanks for covering it. Sounds great." But anyway, so back to the record label. Yeah, they wanted us to cover some songs on their catalog. We're going, "What the fuck, man?" We probably had about 20 songs to record, like we needed any. You know what I mean? So it was. So we had to do "Help Wanted." We did that. Mike Patton, I think, wrote it. I thought it was a Spooky Tooth song, but More Than Meets the Eye, which I thought was kind of cool. And then You Lost That Love and Feeling, and we were recording that at A&M, and Hall & Oates heard us. Next thing we knew, they put it out, and we're going, "What the?" Oh, great. So we, I think the covers we did were good, but the point I'm trying to make is if the album is a little lacking, it's probably because we didn't get the rest of our songs on there. They could have, one or two songs could have brought the level up a little more.
What's going to lead me to the next question is, back in the day, I had come across a demo tape that was out there in the trading circuit in the early 80s, which decades after the fact became something called Uncut Diamond, which me and friends of mine who were huge fans way back could never figure out how those songs, which were of the quality of the first two records, didn't surface. Could you shed a little light on that? Because to this day, I really don't know what happened with those songs.
Yeah, I'm glad you like it, because I'll tell you one thing, that whole album was recorded live. That was just one shot.
Really?
So, the only thing that was done later was Rick's vocals.
And that was in 1980 that was recorded?
Yeah, and the story behind that was Spencer Proffer, who owned this company, a studio called Pasha Records.
Mm-hmm, sure.
I think Quiet Riot did a lot of stuff there.
Yes,
definitely.
Anyway, him and the producer, the engineer, I forget his name, Larry maybe. I think Larry, yeah. But they let us do a whole album there. He said it's supposed to be a demo, to get us a new record deal. You know what I mean? So that's what it was. So that's why we agreed to do it all live, and not the traditional way. And that's what it sounds like. That's exactly what the band sounded like. So I thought that album, that's one of my favorites, to be honest with you.
Me too. There's songs on there that are just as good as in the quality range of the first two albums.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, the song "Hiding." Me and my friend, we got this demo tape. I would say 81, 82, and nobody knew it had the songs written on it, and we were listening to it as like, how did this stuff never came? And I guess about 20 years later, it did actually show up officially released.
What happened was one of our former roadies, that guy actually brought out here with me. He had a cassette tape. And Mike Prince, he's like a Pro Tools genius. Mike Prince took it in the studio and literally made it sound that good from a 30-year-old cassette tape.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool.
Oh, it's got big production. It sounds like something that was actually, put on the shelf, recorded on a big budget in the studio.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a compliment.
Yeah, I mean that was in Legs Diamond circles back in the day. That was like always the holy grail of what were these songs? How did these songs never get released? Why do we have them on a shitty cassette? And then literally 20 years after the fact, they all appeared on a CD, and it was like always like holy grail Legs Diamond.
Wow. Yeah, like I said, the roadie, his name's Willie Twark. He's a lighting guy now in Nashville, but he found that cassette, and it was just amazing that that it was intact. You know what I mean, or not, somehow destroyed.
Absolutely.
And it sounded that good that Mike Prince could actually tweak it up a bit, but it had to sound good in the first place. Can't make it person of a sow's ear, whatever they call it.
Yeah, Sanford's vocals on that were just so I peel your face off.
He's to me, I think he's probably one of the best lead singers ever.
I agree.
Not just because he was in my band, but my favorite singer is Paul Rogers. But I think Rick Sanford in his day was mind-boggling.
And he had a great stage presence too, which is is something that some guys lack. But he had the whole package. Oh yeah,
and he never lost that. He got a little older and he was having problems singing. So a lot of times you just got to retire. That's pretty much where he's at.
Yeah, I mean that style of singing is got, other than Glenn Hughes, it's had a shelf life for everybody other than Glenn Hughes.
Yeah, Glenn Hughes and Paul Rogers. Paul Rogers sounds better than he ever has. Yes. How's that fucking possible?
Yeah, I went to see Bonamassa a few years back, and Rogers showed up at I don't know whether I'm guessing it was planned, but he showed up and he did 3 or 4 free songs with Bonamassa, and he was, and I saw Bad Company at Madison Square Garden in '76 on the second album. He was every bit as good, if not better.
Yeah, I saw Free actually, and definitely saw Bad Company, and I still go see Paul Rogers every time I can. I'll probably see him once every couple of years or something like that, and I'm just going, this fucking guy, man, oh my god,
yeah, I always say that, like the whole 80s movement, the hair bands and, whatever you want to categorize the 80s as. Me and Mark were both huge fans of the 80s as I was the 70s. Paul Rogers is probably the quintessential singer of the 80s that, whether it was Ray Gillen or whoever you want to mention, he was probably the guy that most people think it was Plant, but it was really Paul Rogers that everybody wanted to sound like.
Yeah, I like Robert Plant, but I think he's really limited when you compare him to people like Paul Rogers. I mean, Paul Rogers, amazing. It's like that's the thing that it's really popular now, especially the R&B thing kind of moved in. It's like you're putting a lot of notes in together. You know what I mean? When you're singing something. And there's actually a step in between those notes. So you're not going, you're going, you're doing that and really rapidly. And Paul Rogers has got that down now.
Yes.
I'm going, oh my God, what the fuck?
Wow.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't swear, I guess.
That's okay.
So there was a bunch of songs on that. It's actually the 4th album, that Uncut, that I thought were really fun. And then one song that I thought we almost sounded like Yes in it, is a song called Winds of Fortune.
Yes. Well, I boned up on this album again the other day because it had been a lot of years. And there was some things that were left of center. And that was one of the songs that definitely was. It was like even on your first record, you did things that I thought were very progressive in the realms of Jethro Tull and Yes, songs
definitely.
Like Rat Racer and Dancer and
it's you mentioned Hiding on that album?
Yes.
The interesting thing is Mike Prince and I wrote that song, right? And so that album didn't do anything. Nobody knew where the hell it was, blah blah blah. And then so Mike Prince, when they had the band Without Me in the 80s, it might have been without Jeff too, I'm not sure, but they did Out on Bail, that song Out on Bail.
Yes.
Listen to that song and listen to Hiding.
No, it's the same song.
It's the same song. Yeah, he just took the lyrics out.
Right.
So there's a bunch of cool cool songs on that album.
Oh, there really is, and it was when that was released. That was like one of them. As a fan, I couldn't believe that those songs actually were showing up in good, because we had like really grainy, poor quality, 3rd generation tapes of those songs, but you realize the potential of what was there.
Yeah, unfortunately, the band that could have.
Yeah, to a large extent. So what I wanted to do was kind of take a leapfrog jump to how you got back into the band with Town Bad Girl.
Okay. Let's see. Mike Prince, I've remained friends with most of the guys in the band through the 80s. even though I wasn't in the band. It was like when I left the band in '80, and it's like it wasn't really a hard feelings kind of thing. What it was is the band slowed up considerably, and I wanted to get back to singing, and so I wanted to do my own band, right, on the side, right? And in those days, bands were like jealous wives. You could not be in two bands at once. It was just not ever heard of. So they pretty much said, you make a choice. And at the time, we weren't doing anything. That we already did that, that the Uncut thing, but, was dead as far as we knew. You know what I mean? So, yeah, so we just parted ways. And after I left the band, it didn't seem like it was that long before Michael left. And Michael was pretty much the starter of the band kind of thing. So then so that was just Jeff and Rick and Mike. And then I guess Jeff left. So that's when Dusty got in the band.
Dusty Watson was the drummer.
Yeah, Dusty Watson. Yeah. Great drummer. So anyway, so there was a lot of fragmentation in the 80s. So I'm not an expert on it. So that's about all I know is that part. And I left, I did a bunch my first band was with Bobby Blotzer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, so, I just went on to, doing my own thing for most of the 80s. But then, Mike Prince and I were friends, and we go, hey, we should just put the band back together. He goes, yeah, that's fucking cool. You know what I mean? And so basically, we used the band that they had the last time was a few years ago. So they had Dusty Watson was in band and Mike Christie was on the bass.
Right.
And I didn't know either one of those guys. So we started jamming and it's fucking sounding great. And Mike Christie was a lot closer to the way Michael Diamond plays, with the pick and the treble and all that stuff. So. But anyway, yeah, so we're jamming and writing new songs, getting onto it. And then I had a friend of mine who was kind of a manager. He owned a clothing store on Melrose. And he managed, what's Tracy Guns? LA Guns.
LA Guns. Right?
Pretty much got them going and they dumped them. And then he did the same thing for us, unfortunately. His name was Alan Jones. So anyway, he introduced me to Brian Slagle. And Brian Slagle owns Metal Blade Records.
Sure.
So he turned out to be a fan, and I go, all right, that sounds great to me. And so, so we came out to rehearsal, heard some of the originals, and they signed us. So, and then I got a nice, pretty cool publishing deal too.
And that's what became Town Bad Girl in 1990, right?
Town Bad Girl, yeah. So it's like basically kind of the last band before there was nothing going on, and it was Dusty, Mike Christie, Mike Prince, Rick Sanford, and me.
So you guys kind of had it fit snugly in the hair band era. That I remember when the album came out, it was kind of marketed as it was weird because I remember it was a band I was into for a long time, and when it came out, it was kind of marketed, at least in record stores in New York, as kind of more like a newer like a band, like a new hair band. It wasn't really looked at as a vintage band from the 70s. And it sounded like Legs Done, but it sounded kind of like the bands of that time also. Was that on purpose?
I just think it's, progression.
Right.
It's like, especially when the band really hasn't played in a long time, especially me and Mike Prince together, and so it was just a matter of what we were influenced at that time, but what other people were doing, but we were never a hair band. I did go through periods with my own thing with big hair, but it was mostly like a heavy pop thing. Not the glam metal or nothing like that. But I can send you a picture of my big hair. You'll laugh your ass off. Yeah, and so basically my hair was getting down to normal. That Legs Diamond band, and it was like it was maybe a little glossier than usual. that album.
That's what I thought too. That's the perfect word, glossier. Because it was weird because when that record came out, a close friend of mine and we were into you guys from almost the beginning. And when it came out, we liked the record, but I remember at the time it was kind of, there were a lot of, years had gone by and there were a lot of people that weren't familiar with who you guys were. And it was kind of like, well, there's this band, and it kind of fitted to the category of, more of a newer band than a vintage band, which disappointed me, but only, I guess, the passage of time from, the late 70s to 1990. Did that affect how you guys went over in terms of drawing capacity and sales of record sales?
I'm not quite sure I understand your question.
Did the passage of time with the same band name affect what your anticipation was in terms of drawing capacity, record sales capacity? Did it meet your expectations? Did it...
Well, it never met my expectations. Otherwise, I'd be in a big house in Beverly Hills and planning my tour. You know what I mean? So, there was a little bit of success there, and once again, I was out of the band again. right after it, when nothing was happening. You know what I mean? I'm just going, well, time to get back to work, because out of all the band members, really, I'm the guy that never has stopped working in a band playing since I was 15. I even had a band when I was in the Air Force, so I'm really active. I'm gonna be 71 next week, and I'm playing a gig on that Saturday.
Nice.
So, well, I saw your most recent post of when you played a couple of weeks ago. I had dinner with my friend Mark tonight, and I said, Roger could still play. He's still got chops.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's like we're just doing like a cover thing, but I got a bunch of originals, and I'm trying to get this newer band here to be doing a couple originals now, and it's just a matter of time before we start recording.
Nice.
I got a recording studio in my house. So.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, and then Mike Prince lives 5 minutes away, so this Levesque Diamond thing, once the wheels start rolling a little faster, it happens pretty quickly.
Yeah, that would be really. I personally would love to see whatever you guys have in the can that's out there to finally.
Yeah.
I haven't heard the new singer. Is he a fit in terms of Rick? Or
he's we have a live tape with him when we recorded when we played San Antonio a couple years ago. It's a full show.
What is his name?
Keith England.
Okay, and you said he joined in 2018.
Yeah. He's a friend of mine from doing jams around town. And you were mentioning Bon Scott. Keith kind of sounds like a cross between Rick Sanford and Bon Scott.
Interesting. Okay, so I wasn't that far off the mark. You ended up 40 years after the fact circling back to a Bon Scott singer.
You had a premonition.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, when you say Bon Scott, I know he was popular, but I think Bon Scott got his voice from Alex Harvey.
Oh, okay.
Oh, the Alex Harvey band, yeah.
Yes, have you ever heard their stuff?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, he was on look before Bon, and you want to laugh? Look up Bon Scott when he was playing in like singing in dance bands. He's like a guy, like it's like they're like it's like 2 or 3 male lead singers, and they're all dancing. They all have those same outfits on and stuff. It's hilarious. Because you think of him as being a badass, and when you see this,
I never knew that.
It's terrible. It's like me in that disco band.
Right.
Pretty funny.
So I just had a couple of questions about The Wish. Now, obviously, I know you weren't in it. I'm not going to go into great detail. What transpired that you were back in and then left to the recording of that record?
I left way before that. I left pretty much right after Town Bad Girl.
Okay.
When stuff wasn't happening, so it was like 91 or something like that. And the guitar player that they used, Jeff, and they just decided to do another album. And I think Mike Prince pretty much wrote most of it.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, I've never heard it. We've played one song off of there. I think that song was actually called "The Wish," and that's the only song I ever heard. But to get back to Town Bad Girl, and you're talking about not sounding so much like the old band. It's like, there was so much time in between that it never occurred to us to try to sound like we used to. We were going to do, in shows we were going to do old songs, but, the new album, it didn't really occur to us to try to sound like that. And that's just, Town Bad Girls, just pretty much what came out.
Yeah, I think at least myself, what I loved about it, there were three things that I loved about the original band. Your guitar riffs that were epic, the Hammond organ of Prince, which really didn't see too much of in American bands. It was used by a lot of the British bands a little bit before you guys, like Uriah Heep and Purple, obviously. Tull used it a lot, but and obviously Sanford's vocals, and I just felt with that record it was good. It was a very good record from beginning to end. There were no bad songs on it. And
which album?
Town Bad Girl.
Okay.
It just didn't accentuate enough of that pompous keyboards and the over-the-top vocals, and I think it was just kind of a little bit homogenized for that 1990 hair band, which at that time that style of band was
it was popular.
Yes, it was actually became popular to the point of being the detriment to the music.
Oh, okay.
There was just so much of it, and I thought that record unfortunately got lost in the shuffle. And again, I always feel like it wasn't. I think there were too many people that didn't realize who you guys were, didn't know the history of the band. And even the cover of it, I wasn't wild about, because I thought the first three records had such great artwork, and this had the typical chick, half naked crawling around.
I love that cover.
You do love that cover. See,
I like it too.
Yeah, I wanted something in vain of the first three records, but I guess I was, even in 1990, I was living in the past.
It was a sign of the times.
It was a sign of the times. It was a 20 kitten type of cover.
I was really upset about that first cover, because we okayed the idea, but when we got the artwork, I was pissed off, because I'm a guitar snob, and the guitar that they used for that picture.
Oh, it was a hollow body, yeah.
It was a harmony. It was like this little cheap $100 guitar from the 60s. And I'm going, oh, no.
Well, I always thought that was strange, too, because I so know you didn't play that guitar in any of those songs, so I didn't know what. But it was still a cool cover for the, it was very colorful.
Oh, yeah, like the bullet holes in the back and stuff.
Yeah.
We had a lot of violent images that wouldn't go over too good these days.
Really?
Yeah, wow. Rick used to come out with a starter pistol and shoot at the audience.
That would not go over that well today.
the whole gangster thing, and then firepower with a gun.
Yep,
sure.
I love that cover too.
And the second one with a big fist coming at you.
The second one, that to me was the quintessential Legs Diamond cover. The second album.
I'm pretty sure that was Michael Diamond's idea.
Yeah, that cover was absolutely killer. Speaking of Michael Diamond, what happened to him? I mean, it was 3 albums and gone. What was the story after that?
Well, he seems like he kind of left after I did. So I don't really know the story of the 80s and Michael and how he left, but I know it wasn't amicable, because he's still kind of pissed off.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, it's like, I was telling you, I was still friends with the bands, even if I'm in and out, whatever. It was like one of my first bands when I first left Like Diamond. Jeff Poole and Mike Prince played at it. So,
oh, wow.
Exactly, talk about hard feelings if the guys are, supporting your solo act, you know what I'm saying? And then in the 80s, Michael Diamond and I were in 2 bands together, almost 3 really. And one of them could have done something. The drummer was Matt Sorum. I don't know if you know who that is.
Sure.
Yeah, from the Cult. And Guns N' Roses, yeah.
Yeah, great fucking drummer. But, it's that whole thing, the business is the hard part. The music stuff, if you're talented, the music stuff is the easy part. It's the business that's the hard part. It's like 90%.
Sure.
And that's what, I think we put out good material, but it was mismanagement or no management. It was the reason why nothing happened. That just goes to show you how important management is.
So this is going to take me to an album that I had a lot of questions on. I'm going to try to shorten them, and I just wanted to know how you got back with the band and how you recruited John Levesque, and what your opinions are on that album, and I could share some of my opinions on that album with you.
I love that album.
Me too.
If I may say so. And I'm kind of happy, even though they're not the popular songs on the album, I'm glad I got some really heavy-ass guitar stuff in there. It's a little out of the ordinary for Uncut Diamond, maybe selfish of me, but, you know, that song, like Trouble.
Trouble is great. Rain.
Yeah.
My favorite song on the album is Rain.
And that's another kind of heavy song that I didn't think I'd get over. You know, I wrote that one. I think Mike Prince helped me. And in Trouble, that was me and Mike Prince wrote that one. I think Mike Prince wrote everything. I say it. So, yeah, so I like the heavy stuff on there, but I think, you know, we sort of satisfied with the anthem-like stuff, or anthem-like, or like, what do you want to say, you know, not sad songs, but, you know, kind of epic songs, you know, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Got a few of those on there.
Now, that came out in 2005. That's Diamonds Are Forever. When did you guys start writing for that?
Oh, about a year before, you know,
Okay.
Yeah, and, you know, Mike Prince and I we're always writing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I am, you know, I just wrote a song, you know, like last week.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, you know, we're always doing it anyway, you know, that kind of thing. So it's like, well, it's when it's time to do something, we already got a kind of a head start.
Mm-hmm.
How did you recruit John Levesque? Because he's a guy that I was personally very familiar with. He was in a band called Shout. And he was in a band called Wild Horses. That was on a major label.
Yeah, I was in another friend of mine was in that band, Jeff Pilson.
Ah.
Right.
Yeah,
James Kotak played in that band too?
Right, Kotak was in that band also, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good band. You know, one of those things, oh, it sounds great. What happened to him? I don't know. Nothing. You know, so we had headlined a show in San Antonio, of course, at Sunken Gardens, and the cool thing about it was all guitar player. It's like the opening act were, and it was like Uli had his band, and then Michael Schenker had his band.
Wow.
And Stars played. That was, you know, because we like those guys, and then Ronnie Montreux, right? So basically, you know, we're all these bands are playing, and I'm checking out Ronnie Montrose and the singer. Oh wow, the singer's pretty good, you know. And so anyway, you know, the show's over, blah blah blah, and Mike and I are talking about, you know, later on, Mike and I were talking about, you know, putting the band back together and getting another singer because Rick moved to San Antonio, and so, you know, so looking around for singers, and this death metal band that I was producing in my studio. I had a friend of mine, and I was talking to him, and so we were looking for a lead singer, blah, blah, blah. And he was working at some telemarketing things, you know, selling toner and all that, you know, that kind of stuff. So he goes, I know this guy, this would be perfect. And I go, oh, no, who's that? He goes, a guy named John Levesque, he works here. Selling toner. And so he hooks me up with John Levesque, and I'm just going, dude, you look familiar, man. He goes, well, I sang in Montrose. I go, oh, man, we got video of this guy. So I call up Mike Prince, and he had video of the show, and I'm over at Mike's house, and we're on his piano when Johnny's singing, and we're going to all the notes that he's hitting, right? And we just got to a certain point up high on the keyboard. We just looked at each other and go, we got to get this guy. Yeah, so he, you know, I thought he was a great singer, but once again, you talk about Tom Bad Girl not sounding like the old stuff. I don't think Johnny sounded like Rick at all.
No, he didn't. He did.
Yeah, so to me, that was like another album that we did that doesn't necessarily, it's not like bookends with the other ones.
Actually, I think what carried that album was the strength of the songwriting.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was just me and Mike. Oh, and then we put a Wild Horses song on there, I think, so Johnny would feel okay, you know.
Yeah, well, there were actually two Wild Horses records. There was a second one that was in the can for a long time that subsequently was put out, and then there was the first one that was on the major label that was pushed pretty big, but I think it was kind of like 91ish when everything was starting to change a little bit. But John Levesque, I thought, was one of the better vocal talents out there that didn't really make it on the scale.
Oh, yeah. I thought his voice was great. I just didn't think it sounded like Rick Sanford.
No, he didn't.
At all.
He didn't.
So,
but I didn't know whether you guys were necessarily going for that or not. He just seemed like a fit.
Well, there was 2 songs. I'm trying to think of the name of the 2 that we did, and I was there. I wasn't there with those other vocals. When the 2 that I was there, I was kind of trying to make them sound more like Rick. Mm-hmm. And I think those 2 did. I'm trying to think of the names of the songs, but those 2 songs he actually sounded like Rick. But his voice doesn't naturally sound like it. So
maybe a little bit on the song "Loneliness."
Was that
on the song "Loneliness"? I thought.
I think that's one of the ones that I was there kind of directing him. It was "Loneliness" and one other one. But yeah, you're right. "Loneliness." I think he sounds the closest to Rick Sanford on that song.
Yeah. It was a great record. It as I said to you, I think before we even went on the record with this interview, what I loved about that record is it just got better and better. I thought some of the best songs, which you hardly ever see in the history of rock albums, you never see great songs on the tail end of a record, and that record had some of the best songs on the second half of it.
Yeah, "Loneliness" was actually the last one before that Wild Horses song.
Yeah, exactly. So it was. Yeah, I was hoping for like a build up with that lineup because even though he wasn't a Sanford clone, I liked him from the previous bands he was in, and I liked that record so much. I thought there would be more. What led to the fact that there wasn't more?
Was it more?
Yeah.
No management.
That's a start.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, we're faced to do everything ourselves. And if I was a good manager, like I said, I'd be talking to you from Beverly Hills right now. So it's all about business. You know what I mean? It's just like doesn't matter if you're talented, if you can't, nobody knows about you.
Yeah. What label were you guys on at the time? I'm trying to remember.
Which one?
On the last one with Levesque. Who were you signed to?
Kind of nobody. I think we ended up getting a deal. It was more of a production deal with a German company. I'm trying to think of the name of them.
AOR.
Was it Zoom Club?
AOR I haven't. That's
AOR haven't put that out? I thought it might have been Zoom Club.
The Zoom Club was later on, I think.
Okay.
I think would you say Music for Nations? What's it called?
AOR Heaven.
AOR Heaven. Yeah, they pretty much, it was like a European thing, and they actually brought us over to England and Germany to play, so that was cool.
Yeah, now that was a Firefest show.
Yeah, a Firefest show, and then one was in like Manchester, and the other one was in a town by Stuttgart.
Okay.
And there were 2 different insides, so they were pretty cool. They were trying to do some stuff with us, but the problem is we didn't have anybody to do airplay stuff. You know what I mean? So, we could get on some concerts, but if nobody never heard of us again and will never again, it's difficult to do business.
Sure. Now that was the first time Levesque Diamond had played in Europe?
Yeah. Well, first time I played with them.
Okay.
I think they went over to England right after I left in Town Bad Girl. That's with Jeff Marcus.
Okay.
Yeah, I was pretty bummed about that. But had I known, I would have stuck around a little longer. But but like these days, I'm in like 3-4 bands. You know what I mean? So you gotta, especially when people get older, they get less motivated. So I'm like motivated 110%. So I need to have more than one outlet.
Right.
So I got one question before we let you go and don't take up your whole night. There's some rumors that there's a Levesque Diamond book in the works. Is there any truth to that?
Not that I know of.
Oh, I thought I saw something on the website that talked about a book being worked on. Yeah,
we did see something about that. And I didn't know anything specific about it, but I was just curious.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about, I'm trying to think of his name. I thought he already put it out for some reason. I'm trying to think of it on the website now, trying to look it up, sorry.
Martin Popoff, maybe?
Yeah, Martin Popoff, yeah.
Oh,
I'm pretty
okay.
sure didn't he put something together already?
Not that I'm aware of, but that could be possible. Sure.
Yeah, I'm just not quite sure.
Okay. I'll have
Yeah.
to look into that.
Now that's interesting because I saw a discography on you guys that he guest hosted on, and he wasn't even familiar with half the records that were put out. But it'd be interesting that he wrote a book on it. But I didn't know he was behind it.
I mean, I could see one of the band members writing a book, but
yeah, it was the fact I commented to my friend Mark and quite a few of my other friends. I saw a discography thing that somebody did on YouTube. I won't mention the guy's name, and he was a special guest, and they left off like 3/4 of the records because neither one of the guys that did the interview or the discography were familiar with the record. So it'd be quite interesting that he wrote a book about you guys. But I guess I should have wrote a book about you guys.
yeah, there you go. You still can.
That's right.
I still might.
I should do it.
Well, yeah, obviously. I mean, it's. I've always felt like through the years, it's always been you and Michael Prince, like the brain trust of the band.
Yeah, you can't forget Michael Diamond though. I don't know for what reason he left in the '80s, but not quite sure why he left. But he and I were friends after that. We actually shared a duplex for a while too, and he's still my friend. But he doesn't get the credit because he's pretty much he was like the total brain trust of the band in the '70s. He was pretty much the in-house manager kind of a deal.
How did the name come about? Because I know that's not his real last name. How did you guys arrive on the Legs Diamond name?
Legs Diamond, Jeff Poole did an interview in a Rock Candy magazine. He talked extensively of, Michael and him using the name up in San Francisco, which wasn't actually Legs Diamond Band, but that, basically it was named after the gangster. So they brought the name with them, and they moved to Hollywood, got rid of everybody in the band except them. Then they started adding other members. I think they found Rick, then they found Mike, and Michael, and then they found a guy named Smokey. He didn't work out for the guitar, and they found a guy named what the hell's his name? Well, the guy before me, he had some kind of a disease. He couldn't play for a minute, but oddly enough, a couple months after he left the band, he was fronting his own band. So I'm just going, I don't know how sick this guy is. But anyway, they needed somebody to do the demos, and I did the demos with them. That's why I was telling you earlier about, they asked me to be in the band, and I joined the band just based on Rick's voice.
Well, I really feel at this point I could go on and ask you a million inane questions, but I don't want to do that. So,
all right. Well, we're Facebook friends. You can chime in. You can PM me anytime.
And I will.
It was great, Roger. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to both of us today. It was really a great trip down memory lane.
Yeah, it was fun taking a skip down memory lane.
For sure. Yeah, totally appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And I'll be checking in with you, Roger, with your own band and hopefully new Legs Diamond material, which your cult fan base would love.
Oh, here's something interesting. Jeff Poole actually wrote lyrics this time, and he and I might have 2 songs on the new album.
Oh, nice.
I'm looking forward to that. Very much so.
The one's about his daughter that was unfortunately killed in that Las Vegas shooting thing.
Oh, wow.
I remember seeing something about that, yeah.
Oh, it's terrible.
Anyway, sorry to leave on a bad note, but yeah, so great. And I sent you the link to that live thing from San Antonio a couple of years ago, so you can see what our new singer sounds like.
Great. I appreciate that.
All right, cool. Thanks,
Great.
guys.
Thank you very much.
All right, take care, Roger.